In the early morning hours of February 14th, 2000, a girl left her home on a stormy night, carrying only a book bag, and was last seen walking along a deserted highway in the pouring rain. But when a passing motorist tried to approach her, she ran into the woods and was never seen again. This is a case that will leave you questioning everything. A missing child, unanswered questions, and a search that lasted for 25 years. Asha Jaquilla Degree was born on August 5, 1990, to Harold and Aquila Degree, in a small, quiet community just north of Shelby, North Carolina. It was a family-oriented neighborhood where everyone knew each other, and the Degrees were an integral part of the local community. Asha was the youngest of two children, with her older brother O'Brien by her side. From the outside, it seemed like a typical suburban family living a peaceful life, focused on the values of family, church, and education. Asha, though shy and reserved, was a bright and joyful child. At just 9 years old, she had already developed a love for basketball and was known for her talent on her youth team, where she played as a star point guard. Her energy was often directed toward playing with friends, practicing basketball, and spending time with her family. She wasn't the type of child to wander far from home. In fact, Asha was known for being cautious. She had a particular fear of dogs, which her mother later recalled with a sigh, noting how Asha was always careful about the things that could cause her harm. She wasn't a troublemaker. Asha didn't rebel against her parents or show any signs of being unhappy in her home life. She was happy, secure, and loved by her parents. Asha's family took great care to keep her life simple and focused. The Degrees had no computer in their home, and they made sure that Asha's world was centered around family, school, and church. They were protective of her, wanting to shield her from the negative influences that could be present in the world outside their small community. Asha had her own space, her own world. She spent her time playing with O'Brien and her friends, attending church services, and going to school at Falston Elementary. Her world was a safe one, with little reason to worry. Her parents, Harold and Aquila, worked hard to provide for their children. Harold worked as a dock loader, and Aquila worked at a local piano manufacturing company. While they were busy with their jobs, they ensured that their children had a steady routine, always coming home after school to a warm meal and the comfort of their family. Asha's relationship with her brother, O'Brien, was close. The two siblings often spent time together, supporting each other through everyday challenges. They lived a life full of love, without the pressures or troubles that some children face. Asha was just a normal, happy child, her life full of possibilities. There was no indication that anything was amiss or that anything would disrupt the peaceful life she had built with her family. Despite being a cautious child, she had a bright future ahead of her. Her parents never imagined that one day, on a cold February night, their daughter would vanish without a trace, leaving behind a hole in their lives that would never be filled. Asha's disappearance was shocking not only because of how young she was, but also because it didn't make sense. She wasn't running away, she wasn't unhappy, and there was no clear reason for her to leave. The mystery of why she walked out into the storm that night and never returned has puzzled her family, law enforcement, and the public for over 2 decades. But one thing was clear. Asha Degree was loved, she was happy, and she was supposed to have many more years ahead of her. What happened that night remains a question that continues to haunt those who knew her. The night of February 13th, 2000, seemed like any other for the Degree family. Asha and her brother, O'Brien, went to bed in their shared room, and their parents went about their evening routine. At around 2:30 a.m., Harold, Asha's father, checked on both of the children, making sure they were asleep. At that time, everything appeared normal. There was no indication of anything out of the ordinary. Asha was safe in bed, just like every other night. But hours later, by 5:45 a.m., Aquila, Asha's mother, woke up to find that Asha was missing. There was no sign of her in the house, no trace of where she might have gone. Panic set in quickly. Aquila checked with her neighbors, wondering if Asha had gone over to one of their homes, but no one had seen her. The situation escalated, and the realization hit hard. Asha was gone. She wasn't in her room, she wasn't in the yard, and there were no clues as to where she could be. Harold and Aquilla immediately called the police, and by 6:40 a.m., officers were on the scene. The community rallied around the family, and the search for Asha began just hours after she was discovered missing. As the morning extended, the investigators worked quickly. They began canvassing the area, searching the neighborhood and checking with neighbors. By 10 a.m., police brought in search dogs, hoping they could pick up Asha's scent. But the dogs had no luck. They couldn't find any trace of Asha in the neighborhood, and it seemed as if she had vanished into thin air. Then, a breakthrough came when two motorists reported a sighting of Asha. Between 3:45 and 4:15 a.m., a truck driver and a passing motorist saw a small figure walking along North Carolina Highway 18, just north of its junction with Highway 180. The motorist, concerned about the sight of such a young child walking alone at that hour, turned around to check on her. He circled around 3 times, trying to approach her, but when he got close, Asha ran into the woods and disappeared from view. The witness reported what he had seen, and police quickly confirmed that it was consistent with Asha's appearance. It was clear she had been walking along the highway alone in the rainstorm, but where had she gone after that? The search became more urgent as the hours passed. Local law enforcement, with help from the community, combed the surrounding area. As the investigation continued, every new lead seemed to lead further into confusion, only deepening the mystery surrounding Asha's disappearance. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Law enforcement, including local police, the FBI, and other agencies, spent countless hours searching for Asha, but with little success. They combed the area surrounding her home, hoping to uncover some trace of the young girl. But all they found were empty streets, quiet woods, and silence. There were no new sightings, no breakthroughs, just more questions. A year and a half after Asha vanished, a discovery was made that would bring a new layer to the case. It was a piece of evidence that would only raise further suspicions. In August 2001, Asha's book bag was found 26 miles away from her home, at a construction site in Morganton, North Carolina. The bag, wrapped tightly in 2 black trash bags, contained items that didn't seem to fit with Asha's known belongings. Among the contents was a copy of the book McElligot's Pool by Dr. Seuss, a book Asha didn't own. Additionally, there was a T-shirt featuring the band New Kids on the Block, a band that Asha was never known to have been interested in. The book and the shirt weren't hers. The question immediately arose: who put them in her bag, and why? This discovery suggested that Asha had been taken, or at least carried away, but by whom? And why had she left her home on that stormy night? These new questions only added to the uncertainty and heightened the sense of urgency surrounding the case. Asha's family, still holding on to hope, continued to search for answers. The community rallied behind them, with support pouring in from around the country. Despite the tireless efforts, however, there was still no sign of Asha, and each lead seemed to hit a dead end. Over the next few years, multiple search efforts were launched, and the case gained national media attention. Investigators followed up on hundreds of tips and leads, ranging from supposed sightings of Asha to reports of abandoned houses and wells that could have hidden her. But every time a new clue emerged, it turned out to be a dead end. The case seemed to stall, and the public's attention began to fade, though Asha's family never gave up. The degree of frustration was mounting, and the realization grew that there might be no simple explanation to this mystery. Then, in 2004, a new tip came in, this time from an inmate at a local prison. According to the tip, there were rumors that Asha had been buried in a location not far from where she had last been seen. A team of investigators set off to dig in Lawndale, North Carolina, based on this lead. They searched through the site, hoping to find something that would finally give them an answer, but again, there was nothing. The bones that were discovered turned out to be from an animal, not Asha. Once again, the case seemed to fall into a long, frustrating silence. Despite these setbacks, the investigation didn't stop. The case was revisited in 2015 when the FBI decided to re-examine the evidence. They joined forces with local law enforcement to re-interview witnesses and follow up on any potential new leads. In the years that followed, the search became even more extensive. Investigators looked through old records, interviewed people who might have seen something, and searched new areas. Yet, the answers remained elusive, and each new lead seemed to take them in circles. In 2015, after years of dead ends and frustration, the FBI decided to reopen the case, bringing new hope to the Degree family and the community. They offered a $25,000 reward for information that could lead to the arrest of those responsible for Asha's disappearance. This was a clear sign that the investigation was not over, and they were determined to find the answers that had been missing for so long. With this renewed effort, investigators began re-interviewing witnesses and revisiting old evidence, hoping something would surface that had been overlooked in the past. One of the most intriguing developments came in 2016, when investigators revealed that a car seen near the area where Asha was last spotted might hold a key to solving the case. Witnesses reported seeing a dark green 1970s Lincoln Continental or possibly a Ford Thunderbird, a car described as having rust around its wheel wells. This sighting was crucial because it suggested that someone in a vehicle may have been involved in Asha's disappearance. But despite the focus on this lead, the case remained unsolved, and no suspects were brought to light. Years passed, and still, Asha's disappearance remained a mystery. The investigation had run its course, with little to show for the hundreds of hours of work put in by law enforcement. But in 2020, a new lead emerged. An inmate in a nearby prison wrote a letter claiming to know details about Asha's death and where her body was hidden. The letter provided enough information to prompt authorities to follow up, hoping that this tip would finally lead them to the truth. However, after a thorough investigation, the tip led to another dead end. The inmate's claim didn't hold up, and once again, the case was left hanging in uncertainty. It was a crushing blow for the Degree family, who had been holding on to the hope that someone would finally come forward with the information they desperately needed. But the case took another dramatic turn in September 2024. The FBI and local investigators, determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, executed a search warrant at the home of a prominent local figure who had been involved in the investigation. This person was someone who had come under suspicion during the course of the case, though they had never been fully implicated. The search warrant led authorities to seize several items of interest from the home, including a vintage 1964 MC Rambler. But despite the extensive search, no human remains were found, leaving investigators still without the crucial piece of evidence they needed to make a break in the case. The absence of Asha's remains left a haunting question hanging over the investigation. Had she been murdered? The new focus on the possibility of homicide marked a significant shift in the case. Authorities now believe that Asha's disappearance was not just a tragic incident, but potentially a crime that involved foul play. The search for answers had taken a chilling turn, and as investigators pieced together the details, it became clearer that this case was far from over. There were still too many pieces missing, too many loose ends, and Asha's fate remained unknown. Despite these setbacks, the investigation pushed forward, with new leads and evidence pointing to the likelihood of Asha having been a victim of a planned abduction or worse. The idea that someone had intentionally targeted her began to take hold, as investigators retraced their steps and dug deeper into the past. But the real breakthrough, the one everyone had been waiting for, still seemed out of reach. The mystery of Asha Degree was far from over, and the truth about what happened that night in February 2000 was still waiting to be uncovered. After the tireless efforts of law enforcement, both local and federal, Asha's disappearance remains one of the most haunting mysteries in North Carolina's history. Over the years, the Degree family has refused to give up their search for their beloved daughter. Every year, they hold a walk to keep Asha's memory alive, hoping that one day, someone will come forward with the information they need to finally bring her home. The walk, which starts at their home and ends at a billboard bearing Asha's image, has become a poignant symbol of their determination to not let her story be forgotten. They hold these events in the hope that, as time passes, new information will surface and the case can be solved. The 20th anniversary of Asha's disappearance in 2020 brought a renewed push for justice. The Degree family, still holding on to the hope that one day they would have the answers, continued to press authorities to keep the case active. Media outlets began to cover the case once more, shining a light on the unsolved mystery. The case had gone cold for years, but with the 20th anniversary, there was a renewed sense of urgency. New leads and fresh eyes on the case were seen as the key to unlocking what had happened to Asha. While the investigation continued, many believed that Asha was taken by someone familiar to her. There were theories suggesting that the abduction was not random but planned. However, others feared that a more sinister explanation was at play. Could Asha have been taken by someone with a darker motive? Was this a case of someone hiding a deep secret, or was there something more complicated behind her disappearance? These questions continue to haunt those involved in the case and the public who have followed her story for years. Though progress has been made, the case remains open, and the investigation continues. Every year, as the walk takes place and the billboard stands as a silent testament to Asha's memory, the mystery of her disappearance remains as unsettling as ever. What happened to Asha Degree? And who can finally bring the truth to light? These questions are not just for law enforcement to answer. They're the questions that linger in the hearts of a family still waiting for the closure they deserve. The mystery surrounding Asha's disappearance is not just a case for investigators. It's a case that involves all of us. It's a story that has captured the attention of so many, and it's one that still needs your help. If you know anything that could shed light on what happened to Asha that stormy night, your information could be the missing piece that unlocks this mystery. To stay updated on this ongoing investigation and to continue following Asha's story as new developments unfold, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Your engagement helps keep Asha's case alive and ensures that the search for answers continues. We will keep following this story, and with your help, we just might uncover the truth that has remained hidden for so long. Thank you for watching. Let's keep Asha's memory alive and continue working together to bring the truth to light. If you have any information, no matter how small, don't hesitate to share it. The truth is out there, and it's up to all of us to find it.